Hello and welcome to More Than a Game, a podcast about the A-Leagues, Premier League and more. This week, Thick Nick strikes again as Isaias shows us his reverse Bruno. City and Wanderers play like two teams desperately out of form. And Riley McGree is in demand in Britain and much, much more transfer chat. Here we are in January. My name's Tommie C, and joining me this week is Colby. How are you, Colby?
Mate, very well. Very well. Just avoiding the Rona, avoiding the spicy cough. Here we are in 2022, and we're still talking about coronavirus and avoiding it or getting it.
All that is old is new again, right?
I know.
Damo, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Feeling like I'm up Colby's way with the weather down here at the moment, but trying to stay cool.
It has been very humid here in Melbourne for those who haven't been around here lately. But look, boys, let's get into the football. Lots of postponements in the last week or so, but still plenty of football, still plenty of stuff around football to talk about. So we'll get into our respective moments of the week. Damo, you want to go first?
Yeah, my moment of the week has to be in just what you were talking about, all the postponements in football, and the fact that every single one of the third round games went ahead in the last 48 hours of the FA Cup. And it was just good to see so much football on and be able to wake up and watch highlights no end. And yeah, it was, and there's always great stories come out of the third round of the FA Cup. And I'm sure we'll talk about a few of them later.
Sure we will. Colby, what about you, mate? What was your moment?
Yeah, similar, Tommie. I'm just happy to have some football this week. It really felt over the Christmas break that, you know, the time where we normally get so much football, it was very disappointing not to have that sort of constant stream of A-League and Premier League that we've become so accustomed to.
Didn't feel like Christmas, did it?
Yeah, that's right. So it was nice to have some, and the Melbourne City Western Sydney game, which we'll talk about soon in the pod, delivered the goods as well. Unexpectedly so, to be honest.
Yeah, in a weird way, but like you say, we'll get to that in a little bit. For me, not COVID related, but look, it's a good news story to come out of, I guess, some sad news, and this is something that's been floating around West Ham for a couple of years. There's a young girl, she's about, I think, 7 years old now, by the name of Isla Caton. She's been treated for the last 2 years with a rare form of cancer. And so it's very expensive as well, the treatment. And so the club and all of the players have been getting around her for quite some time and trying to help her family with paying for that. Recently, though, Governor B, who I've got to be honest, I'd never heard of before this, is a UK rapper. I don't know if they call it UK garage or not. I don't know. Grime, yeah. So he's an artist from over in London, and he did basically a track that it was West Ham themed, and it was a fundraiser for it. And look, it only goes for a bit over a minute, but it's gone basically viral in the UK, and it was like top of the. Although maybe you need to take it with a grain of salt, but it was top of I think the iTunes charts or the Spotify charts or whatever you want to call it. But there was a couple of great lines from it, though. I thought I'd read some of them out. And a friend of mine, I'm not going to do that.
Namo, give him a beat.
Don't do it.
Where's Sal when you need him to coerce you?
Yeah, we need some encouragement.
Jumping into the comments, but no. So it starts off. I don't want to hear about KDB. It's not that time. Best midfielder playing in the Prem. That's Declan Rice. And then it finishes with, I thought this was a good one as well. Beat City in the Cup on pens. That game was a corker. They couldn't stop us, not even the real Kyle Walker, which I thought that was good too. And look, like I say, it only goes for about a minute. References almost every West Ham player in the squad, but just I guess I thought it was good form. But I know some people thought that the song itself was a little bit cheesy, but I enjoyed it.
Hammer cheese, it's what you want, Tommie.
Yeah. The song's called Massive, if anyone wants to check it out. So yeah. I feel like we were talking about this earlier in the week about the Triple J announcer and like people doing I felt like a Triple J announcer then, like, oh, this is just like so fatuous, making up just like some ridiculous word to describe it. All right, boys, own goals though. Damo, what about you?
Look, I debated this being my moment of the week, but I couldn't go past all the football that happened. But in one of the games that happened, I'm going to do it as an own goal, even though it could have gone the other way in classic M-Tag fashion. But there was, we love some shithousery here on the pod. And I'm not sure if you guys saw, but at the Charlton versus Norwich game, which was Charlton with a home ground, I think it's the Valley is their stadium. At halftime, they decided to show the highlights of Norwich getting relegated from the championship in the 08-09 season to the Norwich fans who are in the OAN. So I thought that was could have been moment of the week, but some elite level shithousery that you would hate to see as a Norwich fan. So
look, I think that's your moment of the week for everyone except the Norwich fans, really.
Yeah.
They'll be back.
Yeah, inevitably. Colby, what about you, mate? What was your own goal?
My own goal this week, Tommie, it's going to AFCON. The tournament's kicked off now, the African Cup of Nations, but they've introduced some guidelines, which the upshot is that their COVID guidelines are that matches have to go ahead if teams have 11 available players. Now, that doesn't include goalkeepers. So we could see situations where you've got outfield players, squad players that are putting on the gloves and going in nets in a tournament of, you know, the prestige that comes with the likes of AFCON. You know, it's up there with the Asian Cup and the Euros and the tournaments of that nature. It's just a joke. So if they don't do that, if they have 11 available players and they don't want to stick an outfielder in nets, they can take a 2-0 forfeit, which is not a great option in tournament play, obviously. And it's just going to be a shambles because like several of the teams already have got COVID in the squads. I think there's been 2 matches played already or something like that. Like, so it's too late to pull the pin. Like, but I just think
it's just strategic timing. Maybe they've got like a tough fixture coming up first.
It's hard to say though, because like, I guess it was maybe November when Omicron sort of appeared in Europe, where a lot of the players are coming back to Africa from who are playing in this tournament, and it came out of South Africa, I believe. And so I don't know how early or how late is too late to pull the pin, but like the Euros showed that they could pull the pin successfully due to COVID reasons and then come back and play at another time. But AFCON didn't manage that, and it remains to be seen how cooked this tournament will be.
Surely, Zimbabwe plays Senegal tonight. Senegal, one of the favourites to go all the way. In Zimbabwe, not known for their football, we could say. Surely you'd throw a few false positives in there like Klopp if you just wanted a 2-0 loss.
100%.
Walk yourself 100%. Through with 2-0 instead of losing 4 or 5-0.
Colby, any thoughts on that? Or
no, it's not bad scrap.
Klopp banter in there.
Don't mind it.
He won't take the bait, Damo.
Don't associate Klopp with AFCON. He's suffered enough. He's gone through enough. He's hated by African journalists. So.
Yeah, it's so true.
Leave my boy alone.
Klopp is the real victim here.
Yeah, he is.
All right. For me, my own goal this week, it's a little bit hard to go past. I guess people sort of collectively losing their minds at FPL in the wake of all the cancellations and postponements.
So you and Jesse.
Well, I think out of all the people that play FPL like reasonably competitively, like we're both just sitting there going, what the hell is going on? So it started out where we had sort of the first wave of cancellations over the Christmas New Year period, and they brought out a free hit, which means you can basically for 1 week only you can pick whoever you want, and then your team reverts back at the completion of that week. And now, I think they thought that would sort of maybe just put a Band-Aid over what is really going to be a problem for quite a while. And we're seeing now just like cancellation after cancellation after cancellation, and it's to kind of making a bit of a joke of the game, and it makes it almost unplayable to the point where like there's no skill involved. It's purely just down to luck and whoever actually ends up playing more than anything. So look, it is tough, but I did see some people out there suggesting that like next season they should bring out like you should have extra players on your bench, or it should be 110 million. And I thought you're trying to break the game for what is like a once in a 100-year event. Like it might mean that FPL is just broken for another 12 months or something like that. And if that's the case, well, that's the case. But
give us 5 subs, Tommie. 5 subs.
5 subs, 3 goalkeepers, and you've got 127 million to spend.
Only 5 substitutes in some competitions, and others are 3, and you don't know which is which.
And you're like, why don't they just use their 4th sub? And you realise that they don't have 4 subs. I still can't remember how many subs you can make in the A-League and the Premier League this season. But anyway, look, a couple of news points from the last 24, 48 hours. The first one, and probably the biggest news, is regarding Riley McCree. It looks like his loan deal from Charlotte in the MLS to Birmingham, that's wound up, and so he's meant to be returning going to the US to play for Charlotte now. But he's quite highly in demand in Britain, between Boro, Nottingham Forest, and even Celtic now are apparently with Ange are apparently very interested in Riley. And boys, I wanted to ask the two of you, where would you like to see Riley settle? At Boro, Forest, Celtic, or even Charlotte in the MLS?
I think he's got to go to Celtic. I think it'd be a huge opportunity missed if he doesn't. He gets to play under his national team coach, who he knows is a big fan of his. He knows he's going to push him and give him more opportunity in big games. And going to a club like Celtic, there's a lot expected of you, and there's a lot of pressure. And I think it's good to expose yourself to that as a young player. So I think if Celtic can get it over the line, that's where he'd prefer to go, I would imagine.
I think Celtic need a centre mid too.
Well, they've just signed 2 blokes from the J-League who are standouts in the J-League, another bit of sparky Ange business. But yeah, they have needed midfielders.
And there's already, I see there's already the fan-made welcome to Celtic skills and highlights videos on YouTube. So here we go.
And I'm not sure when the MLS season is actually due to start. I think they run an opposite to Europe, obviously. So it's still a few months away. So he could play the end of the European season and join Charlotte, I think about 10 games into the MLS season, which I imagine is what's going to happen.
And I mean, he's still 23 as well. So he's like, I'm really keen to see what magic Ange can work with him. Rogic 2.0. He needs to take his game up a level. Like it's not now or never, but it's sort of like if he's going to be really great, now's the time to step up.
Yeah, exactly.
So the MLS starts at the end of Feb, the last weekend of February. So pretty much he needs to go now, otherwise he will end up playing probably maybe half the MLS season with Charlotte. So very interesting times ahead though. Next up, it's been sort of rumoured and talked about for quite some time about the name change of the FFA Cup to we don't know what, but it's starting to. It looks like it's firming up a little bit that it's going to be called the Australia Cup. Boys, is that just a really sensible decision?
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong with it. It's a throwback to the original first truly national soccer tournament we had in Australia in the early 60s, which led into the creation of the NSL. So a throwback to that. And I think also, what was the name of that? Mike Cockrell was a huge advocate for renaming the FFA Cup to the Australia Cup for a long time, even from the very beginning of the competition. So it'd be a good little nod to him as well.
Yeah, I like that. You'll have the Mike Cockrell medal at the Australia Cup.
Yep.
Nice. And I badly want the Knicks to win
it. Wouldn't that be great? The New Zealand team win the Australia Cup just to rub it in. Unfortunately, you don't get the Asian Champions League spot from that tournament anymore after Australia's coefficient has been downgraded once again.
Yeah, we spoke about that when the news happened on the pod.
Yeah.
That's a huge shame, because that would have been such a good thing to really try and boost the profile of the cup and get people really interested in, and to just make it matter more than just trying to build it up organically.
Yeah, and look, the final piece of news that we'll cover, it looks like Gianu is going to be going to Macarthur Bulls. It's just sort of appeared in the last couple of hours on social media. Boys, it's a bit of a left field call, especially with his name escapes me now, Tommie Juric, that he's at Macarthur Bulls, although he hasn't played yet for them this season. Good move for the player, good move for the club. What do you think, Colby?
You can never have too much talent. And Apostolos Giano, as some listeners may or may not know, is actually George's boy. So George is now a Mac Bulls fan, confirmed.
Ding, ding, ding.
George will be tuning into more A-League games from now on, I would imagine.
Loves it. Yeah, George will be waking up at all hours to watch his boy play for Mac Bulls.
Unfortunately, we'll miss out on the updates from the Cypriot League. But
that is a shame.
But it'd be good to see him back in the A-League. But I feel it's a strange kind of move, because don't you think that Apogiano and Tommie Juric are essentially the same player? Like, how different do they play?
I can't think of two players that are more alike that are both Australian, to be honest.
Colby, you look confused. You don't agree with that?
I thought Apo was. I thought he was much more like a Rukavitsa or a slower McLaren sort of like an on the shoulder sort of forward. Whereas Juric is about hold up play and that. I thought they were a little bit different. Maybe I'm not as much of an Apostolos fan as I thought. But
we might have to get George's input here, because
we need George. We need George to let us know. Yeah, or listeners, any listeners, let us know. Are they different?
Alrighty. Next up, round 8, or supposedly round 8 of the A-League. First up, Saturday night saw a repeat of the midweek FFA Cup fixture between Adelaide and the Victory. This time around, the fixture was at Amy Park in Melbourne. A bit of a dour affair until almost 80 minutes before it came to life, with 2 goals and a red card in the final 10 minutes. Boys, another goal for Thick Nick D'Agostino, which means he's level with Mikkel Tadze on the A-League Golden Boot race. Do you think he's a legit threat for the title this year, or do you think Margiotta will steal too many minutes off of him?
For the Golden Boot?
Oh,
I think this is the richest vein of form D'Agostino's ever been in his career. So if he continues this for the rest of the season, maybe, but I don't see him anywhere near the top of the Golden Boot come the end of the season. And
put some respect on Shagostino, Damo. He's on for it.
Soundbite that for the season review episode. And make me look stupid.
Absolutely. I'm bookmarking this.
Episode 157.
Big Nick's on. He's on, boys. Popper loves him.
He's been playing well. He's been playing really well.
He's scored in his last 3 A-League games. I think he's started back-to-back games, all comps. Popper knows him. He brought him in. And he's starting ahead of Margiotta now too. So look, I think if he keeps this vein of form up, which I think he will, who else is going to do it? Macca maybe when Melbourne City kick into gear, I guess is the obvious threat.
If they kick into gear,
but I don't think it will be Margiotta threatening him. I think Shaggers can hold him off.
Well, Tommie, you mentioned this game was, a snooze fest for the better part of 80 minutes. And it was Leighton Brooks and D'Agostino that really brought the game to life. It was a nothing long ball, which was an amazing first touch from Leighton Brooks, so I think still only a teenager. And he brought it down and laid it off to D'Agostino, who scored a brilliant strike from 25, 30 yards out. And it really lifted the game, completely changed. The energy just flipped, and it went from being the most boring game I've watched to one of the most exciting 10 minutes I've watched of the A-League all year. And they say goals change games, and if you can score goals like that, D'Agostino's got a huge role to play.
I loved this goal. Like, you just see everyone on the victory bench after he scored it. The camera's like panning around to the victory bench, and they're all just like losing their minds, like, at how good the goal was. You could see the assistants and the coaches like tapping each other, being like, "How good was that?" That's what it's all about.
But you mentioned that Daggers and Popper, that they love each other. Like, Nick ran to Popper to celebrate with him, right? Like, that's always a sign that a player and a manager have got a really close relationship. So
well, it wasn't too long ago that D'Agostino was kind of struggling to find a contract in the A-League, and Popovic gave him a chance at Perth Glory and really sort of reignited his career. So I'm sure he's got a real soft spot for Popovic. And he'll want to follow him really wherever he goes. Let's hope he doesn't go back to the Greek second division and take Daggers with him.
Isaias, he did get sent off late in the game, and we'll come to that in a little bit. But he's returned from overseas to Adelaide this year to play again for the Reds, and he's been in not the greatest run of form, and his return has also meant that the very promising Luis Dorigo is not getting the same amount of minutes as he was last year or even the year before. Do you guys think that Adelaide did the right thing in bringing Isaias back, or what are your thoughts?
Well, the thing about Doritos is, Tommie, you just keep them in the cupboard until you need them. Then you pull them out when you want to entertain. But he's an Adelaide club legend, and he's going to bring leadership and experience to the team. And him and One Day, who are in those roles, are 34 and 35. So they're not going to necessarily be getting every minute of the game. And then you've got the depth that's good for competition. Louis going to be learning a lot from him. And then with COVID and he's getting sent off every second game, I reckon Dorito's got a few minutes in him.
So basically what you're saying is one day you're going to need the Doritos from the cupboard.
It's there.
You know what? This might be really harsh, but Louis Dorigo gives me real Ben Kantarovsky energies. Like, he's already reached his ceiling.
It's not even 20.
Exactly.
Jeez.
He's not even 20. He's been playing in the league for 3 years and he hasn't got any better.
Oh, that's very harsh. I think Doritos, I guess, is we're now referring to him on this podcast. I think he's a real talent. And I mean, I think he just needs to keep playing, and you don't know how high his ceiling can be, I guess. So
Damo's a real CC's man.
Yeah.
Australian made.
Like Chris Coyne, who's CC? Boys, changing tack a little bit. Without a goal in the first quarter of the match, the players broke for drinks break around the 30-minute mark, despite cool conditions in Melbourne. Danny Townsend, the CEO of the APL, said that this was a balancing act between football and commercial realities of the league's deal with Channel 10. What do you make of that?
I think Danny Townsend has said a lot of things right on social media and in interviews, and this was one he didn't get quite right. He's put a lot of people offside by saying that, and I don't think, that might be the reality, but, I don't think that's what you should be publicly saying, and it almost starts to create the effect that we're having, timeouts. What they call in basketball. In basketball and NFL, they call them media timeouts, literally, so there can be ads played on TV or radio. So we don't want to get to that kind of territory. We're already seeing ads getting shoved in when free kicks and players are down. So, that's the reality of being on a mainstream network that we all knew was going to happen. But we don't want to be creating stoppages and pauses in the game just for that.
I think you mentioned the NFL in passing there, Damon. I think that's a really good example, because in the NFL, they might have an ad, but it'll be basically a banner, and it'll come with audio sort of over a portion of the screen, maybe even a third of the screen. But you still see what's on the screen, and I think that would be far less jarring than absolutely just cutting the feed to the football altogether, because that really does take you out of the game. And
I think that's what SBS did that when they were showing their one A-League game a week. They would put an image over a part of the screen and play the audio and sort of picture-in-picture mode an ad, if you will.
Yeah, and I think a lot of football. Sorry, Colby.
No, that's right, boys. Like, I hate the drinks break for an ad. I hate cutting away from the play. This definitely ain't it. But Danny's not wrong. like that is the commercial reality that we're in. Like the game needs to commercialize more. If it's going to be viable, free to air product, if it's going to make money that way and attract new eyeballs to the game and grow the game in this country, like we're going to need to commercialize it further. But like you're both saying, it's got to be in some more innovative and less disruptive way.
Well, it's one of the reasons why Channel 10 was so successful with the Big Bash, is they turned cricket, which test match cricket can go for hours and hours and hours with no breaks. And they turned cricket into start, stop, let's get as many ads and sponsorships and endorsements as we can fit into a short period of time. And it made them millions and millions of dollars. And and Channel 10 were really successful at doing that.
Give us more shirt collar sponsors. We've got space.
Boys, moving on though. Sadly, it did seem inevitable, but we're going to be talking about some off-field issues regarding Josh Cavallo. He was subject to homophobic chants at Amy Park. What did you make of the VUC and APL and other responses to this?
APL's response was good. I mean, that's what that's the perfect response. They're going to work with police and the stadiums to identify any perpetrators and give them bans. That's what you need to do. PFA, the clubs, Adelaide, Melbourne, Victory have all strongly condemned. That's what you need to do. But like this whole situation's a mess. Like it's one of those like disappointed but not surprised sort of situations where it was a large contingent of the Melbourne Victory fans apparently, which is really disappointing. I think in future other active fans and other fans in the stadium need to play a more active role in calling it out at the time.
As in self-policing.
But yeah, essentially, there's got to be consequences for these people, and that's not even to talk about the social media aspect. But like that's where this starts and stops. I think there has to be consequences, real world consequences for these people that are doing these things.
Fair enough. All right, and finally, I guess on a lighter note, Isaias's second yellow was allegedly for screaming "fuck off" when it was. Although he alleges that he said "vamos," so basically it's a reverse Bruno from the FFA Cup final a couple of years ago. Do you think he's going to get his ban overturned though?
Oh, who knows? If you the footage I saw, it looked like he turned around and gave the big ones to the referee after a disallowed goal, just a couple minutes earlier. And you can see on the footage the ball goes in and Isaias turns around, looks towards the referee and yells something. So maybe he did yell "vamos," but who cares? It was he was trying to incite a response from the referee and he got one.
I love this for the meme tier. It's just people have loved this, and that's what I love about the league. But actually, I don't think too many people are talking about this, but I think it's worth saying is I like that refs are coming down harder on this kind of stuff. Isaias got sent off. We saw Macca get sent off for something at the end of a game the other day. They're not copying it. Like players can't just get in the ref's face at their place of work and just swear at them and all that kind of stuff. So I'm actually really pleased in a way that this kind of stuff is being stamped down on. So.
Well, I remember a long time ago when we were probably all juniors playing football and they stamped out any sort of swearing and any swear word was an immediate red card and there was red cards everywhere. And I'm pretty sure the English non-league have introduced a sin bin system for people swearing. So if a referee catches you, if you get booked a yellow card for dissent, you actually get put in the sin bin for, I think it's 5 minutes. And then if you do it again, it's a straight red card. So it's, there's different ways of dealing with it, but like you said, Colby, it's good to see that the A-League referees have clearly got a directive to focus on crunching that out of the game.
Good stuff. And finally, in the other game that was played in the weekend, this one also in Melbourne, City versus Wanderers. This one turned out to be a really strange game, finished 3-3. The Wanderers were out of the box quickly, though, with 2 fantastic goals. Firstly, a screamer from James Torrisi, and a really great team goal finished off by Jack Rodwell. City finally awoke from their slumber and got one back through Dimitri Petratos' own goal. Both sides also hit hit the woodwork too, and this was all in the first 15 minutes of the game. Jamie McLaren got on the score sheet just before half-time with a well-taken headed goal from a corner. In the second half, saw a Marco Tilio banger before Agawa scored one of the most anticlimactic goals you are likely ever to see, as pretty much everyone on the field seemed to think that he was offside. But he kept playing, and the VAR ruled that it was the correct decision, that it was offside. It was onside. That the City right back Scott Galloway had played him onside. It was a really weird game where both sides held the lead for portions of the game and ended up finishing 3-3. Who do you think would be more disappointed with the result?
Look, I only tuned in for the second half of this game, and when I turned it on, it was already 2-2. So I think I missed a whole exciting part of the game. I did go back and watch the highlights, but I think if you
watched 90 minutes,
if you go 2-0 up and end up not getting 3 points, you would feel like you've dropped points. I don't think there's any other way to look at it.
And that's disappointment in yourself. So Western Sydney would be disappointed in themselves, but they would also be disappointed in the officiating as well. They had a penalty waved away. Seemed like Tommie's boy, Potato Rusty Griffiths, had moved his arm and handballed a shot that appeared to be going on target. It's debatable whether it was, but in any case, it looked to be a pretty clear handball in the box. The ref waved it away, and it didn't go to VAR. So I think they'd be pretty disappointed by that as well, particularly given their start to the season, and they'd be feeling that, things just aren't going for us.
That penalty was so obvious that my non-football watching partner was screaming that was a handball. So that's how obvious that handball was.
I think we all agree that it was a penalty, or should have been a penalty, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess the only thing that maybe remains in question is whether or not the shot was going to be on target, and whether or not it saved a goal, or whether or not it just has hit a hand sort of in flight. And I think I said in the group chat that should it have been a penalty and a red card, or just a straight up penalty? And that, I guess, depends on whether or not it was going in or not, because Griffiths he looks like he kind of moves his arm ever so slightly, but it does look like he moves his arm towards the ball. So not a great look for him or the officials, I guess, in this instance.
It's a shame because we never got to have that debate. Like, that's purely a hypothetical debate now, because it just never got reviewed by VAR like that, and that's one of the failings of the system right there. It's just a clear candidate for VAR needing to get in the ref's ear, being like, mate, you want to have another look at this. I appreciate that the ref in real time saw it. He's standing there close to it. He didn't think it was a penalty, but
that's what VAR's there for.
Yeah, that's important stuff to get those decisions right.
Not?
And that's why we brought in VAR, to get clear and obvious things that refs miss, to get them officiated properly and get a higher percentage of accuracy and correctness in the calls. So, that's an opportunity missed.
Boys, Matthew Leckie had another pretty disappointing performance in this one. I remember you guys were saying in the group chat how hard I was on Leckie. What were you saying? He's my anti-boy now. After I was just slamming him pretty much for 90 minutes. But boys, on form, obviously he's not in great form, but we know what to expect from Leckie in a Socceroos jersey. Does he make the Socceroos squad in the next couple of weeks when they play Vietnam?
I don't think he deserves a spot on current form, but I don't hate him as much as you, Tommie, but I don't think he deserves a call up.
Yeah, I agree. On the way he's playing, I don't think he deserves a call up, but given, that we're still living in a world with COVID and the game is in Melbourne and Matt Leckie lives in Melbourne, if there's anything that's going to save him from being dropped, it's the fact that it's a conveniency that he's already here. So I think if he's picked, he's not picked on form and he's not going to start.
Boys, on the topic of Lecky, does Kisnorbo continue to play him, basically to play him into some sort of form, or does he need to just give him a rest and give him a break and give Kolakowski a run?
It's a tough call, isn't it? Because if you're Kolakowski, you're just itching for a chance, but you also want your on paper supposed to be your best players playing, and like you said, sometimes players can play themselves into form. So it's a tough call, and I think he's already dropped Lecky. What was it? 2 games ago, rather, during the Melbourne Derby, and he just kind of said, "Oh, he's unwell or he's unfit," and just left him out of the squad. In total, it was kind of you've been dropped without having been dropped, and it didn't really make an impact that he thought it would have. So yeah, it's a tough question, and I'm glad I'm not the one making the decision.
Yeah, it's an interesting test for Kisnorbo, isn't it? Like, you've got a player of Lecky's status coming back into the squad. Probably would be Socceroos captain if he was still playing at a high enough level, and he'd be right in there. But yeah, and it takes courage, I reckon, to drop big players like that in your team, and we'll see if Kisnorbo has that if Lecky keeps up the form slump.
Good to see the size of Kisnorbo's cojones. Question from Josh Watson. We've kind of covered this already over the last couple of weeks, maybe, but Damo, I think you may not have had an opportunity to answer this one. He asks, are teams figuring City out, or are they just having a hangover with no Luna and Noon? Damo?
I get the feeling that City are a bit one-dimensional at the moment, and they've been easy to defend against for a multitude of reasons. They've got players who aren't in the best form, and we know if Lecky is on fire and if McLaren's on fire, they're sort of unstoppable players in the league, and they haven't been. And they're very one-dimensional in how they attack. They like to get down the wings. They like to get it wide. They like to get it back into the box, and teams have figured that out. So, and I'm sure that's not the only way they play football. I'm sure Patrick Kisnorbo has another way that they can change and they can adapt. But I don't think he's got the right players to change it yet, because they've got so many injuries and so many people out with COVID. So, yeah, it's a bit of both, I guess, to kind of sit on the fence. They have been figured out. But they also they haven't really got the squad to change anything yet.
Squad's not quite as deep as it was last season, is it? Alrighty, let's. There's a couple of FFA Cup games midweek. As I mentioned at the top, Adelaide, they hosted Melbourne Victory. Melbourne Victory ended up winning that one 2-1, which means Adelaide are out of the FFA Cup. Yep, not a warning. They are out of the Cup. So someone else has got to win it this year, which is always a good thing. In the other game, Melbourne City, they hosted Wellington. This one was played down at Cheltenham at Bentley Greens' Oval. City again, obviously couldn't trouble the scorers. Were pretty flat from all reports. Scott Jamieson ended up missing 2 penalties, including one in the shootout. And curiously, Matt Lecky didn't take one of the penalties in the shootout, so also kind of strange. And as we said before, that obviously leaves the Knicks in the into the quarterfinals now of the FFA Cup. Just means they're only 3 games away from winning the future Australia Cup. So good stuff there.
You love to see it.
Next up, a little bit of Premier League chat. All right, so obviously there was some FA Cup that was broadcast over the weekend. Plenty of games that were played there. We'll cover just quickly a couple of the key results that happened. First up, Newcastle, they hosted Cambridge. Cambridge, I think, pretty sure they're in League 1. Maybe they're in League 2, I can't remember. But Cambridge ended up taking this one out 1-0, which means Cambridge have beaten just as many Premier League opposition as Newcastle have this season.
But I've got a good fact about Cambridge. I love good facts. So their manager, Mark Bonner, who used to play for the club it's his boyhood club. He was given the caretaker job at Cambridge United when they were sitting 19th in League 2. Ooh. He ended up keeping them safe. They won League 2 and got promoted to League 1. and now they've gone and beat Newcastle away in the third round of the FA Cup and are sold out at St James's Park. So he's done pretty well for himself in the last 18 months. And at 36 years old, to be having a managerial job is a feat in itself. So that's pretty impressive.
Absolute scenes. Another player that's at Cambridge is Wes Houlihan. You remember the injury problems that he had at Newcastle. I think everyone thought that he was finished, but he's still playing.
Finished? No, he's Irish, isn't he?
Other results that happened was Arsenal lost 1-0 to Nottingham Forest, and as I saw someone say on social media, this was just a team with 2 Champions League titles beating a team with none. So it was probably just the expected result there. Boys, I want to know who. Would like to know your thoughts on this one. Who's living most on their continental championships more, Wanderers or Nottingham Forest fans?
Well, I don't know enough Forest fans to be able to tell you, but I know that Wanderers fans, they don't stop talking about it. So I assume Forest would be the same. Although I don't think there'd be many Forest fans alive that saw them win the Champions League.
The fact that they haven't even been in like the top division in the UK for almost 20 years.
I think 96 or 97, I read this morning, was the last time they played in the top flight.
Yeah, which is pretty grim. But the fact that they still reference something that happened, massive achievement, but still it happened 30 years ago or 35 years ago is
longer. It was in the 70s, wasn't it? The
late
70s?
The early 80s. I thought it was the early 80s.
Yeah, right. I might be wrong.
Let's say at least 35 years ago. Yeah. Kidderminster in the second tier of non-league football. So what's that? The 6th tier of English football. They beat EFL Championship side Reading. Someone's filled in a little bit of extra detail. What are they? 79 places apart in the Football League ladder. So I'm going to assume that was Damo that put that into the run sheet form. Kidderminster host West Ham in the 4th round, and that would just be so on brand for West Ham to lose to a team probably 80 odd places below them in the Football League. Oh, not even in the Football League, like just in the English football pyramid.
They'd be tempted to play the kids, but now they're actually playing the kids.
Yeah.
Play the kids against the kids.
I did see I think it's a Leeds fan who I follow on Twitter. I can't remember their name, and they said, I'm glad that Leeds didn't beat West Ham because it would be really Leeds to lose against Kidderminster in the FA Cup. So yeah.
Does everyone think they're going to lose?
Did you see their
stadium? Just going to lose to non-league team?
Yeah, I think so. So it's funny enough, Kidderminster play in the 6th tier, so the 2nd tier of non-league. I think they're in the Conference North. And they're actually a full-time professional football club. So every single one of their players are full-time professional. They're not part-time players, interestingly enough. I had a look today. And it's funny because at that level, the top 2 tiers of non-league football are now the vast majority of clubs are fully professional clubs.
That's wild. And I mean, it obviously means it's a pretty difficult situation for all the players in the club with COVID over the last year or so, but still it's pretty incredible achievement nonetheless. It means that there's plenty of money there, I guess, doesn't it? One final point, I guess, on the FA Cup 3rd round, and I just thought it was a strange factoid about this round was that obviously you've got a lot of different clubs from varying levels in the English pyramid. But with the 3rd round, games where a Premier League team is the host, they have VAR in those matches, but where there's no Premier League host, so it's a team from the Championship or below, there's no VAR. So do you think they've taken the right approach to that? That basically if they can have VAR, it has it, but rather than just no VAR at all games? Does that make sense?
It's an interesting one because I think they would assume that come the quarterfinals or maybe even the round before that the vast majority of the teams left will have VAR. So they want VAR to be around for the pointy end of the comp, but so they can't say no VAR until the 4th round. Like they can't do something like that. So, but they will want it for those, semifinals and final particularly. So I don't know what the best way to do it is. Maybe this is the best way to do it, but it just seems a bit odd that teams that can't afford it, the technology just can't afford to have it there.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea until there's a very line ball call that doesn't benefit a small team at a ground who doesn't have VAR. And so
I think
when Kidderminster get robbed against West Ham because they don't have VAR.
Exactly.
I think it was in the Kidderminster Reading game. I think Reading had a goal that maybe should have stood, and VAR might have called it back. But obviously that one worked in the favour of the smaller team. So it wasn't maybe the big issue that it was that it could have been. But interesting. Boys, a couple of transfers have actually been completed in the Premier League. I think Watford have already signed 4 players, and none of them are anyone that anyone has ever heard of before. But then you've got Kieran Trippier has gone from Atletico Madrid to Newcastle, rumoured fee of around £12 million. We've talked about that, I guess, a little bit before, but now that it's actually happened, and he started for Newcastle against Cambridge. How big a success is he going to be? Can he help to solidify that defence and keep Newcastle up this season?
It doesn't seem so. I mean, Trippier is not known for being an out and out, rock of a defender. He's more known for his getting down the wing and getting balls into the box sort of defence. So I don't know. It's a good signing for the fans to be excited about, but I don't know how well it's going to do and help keeping them up.
I feel like if that is their statement signing and they don't go out and sign Dembele or something ridiculous like that, and that's their statement sign, and the rest are just really serviceable Premier League quality players, and that's what helps them stay up, then I feel like it's been a great signing. But if Trippier is sort of the tip of the iceberg and sort of in terms of the approach that they're taking, then God help Newcastle.
Imagine him just bombing past Matt Ritchie on the left flank, 2 wands of left feet, just going at it.
Oh, where to start with that? Moving on though, Philippe Coutinho, he's gone on loan from Barcelona to Aston Villa. This really just sort of came out of nowhere. I think that everyone was more looking towards Coutinho going maybe to Newcastle. Boys, can he dislodge Colby's boy, Buendia at Villa?
Well, but Buendia hasn't really fired this year, has he? So, but I thought the funny part here is that Gerrard's finally getting Coutinho feeding Danny Ings like he wanted a few years ago. Villa are interesting because, and you might have been getting to it, Tommie. Luca Dean is rumored to go to Villa as well for about 20 to 25 million pounds. Been linked with a few different clubs, and Villa have the 3rd richest owners in the Premier League. They've got Steven Gerrard, who's their manager, who's a big draw card. People want to play under an icon of the game like him. So, Villa are doing well in the market and having good results at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do.
I think a lot of Villa fans and a lot of Premier League aficionados would think that Matt Targett, he's a serviceable Premier League quality fullback. But I mean, if Luca Dean's on the table and he's interested in going to Villa, you'd be a fool not to upgrade whenever you can, basically. So
always shows their quality in. Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyone? Always better to get quality players in. If you can get a quality player in who improves your squad, then you just get him in.
Yeah, and I guess the funny thing I thought was that I thought it was just virtually a done deal that he was going to Chelsea, but it looks like Villa might end up hijacking the deal, or who knows, maybe it could just be a little bit of agent talk to maybe get the deal across the line at Chelsea. So I guess we'll have to see. Finally, one little bit of gossip and I don't normally try to buy into too much of the transfer gossip when it comes to the pod, but there were two really juicy ones. The first one was Luca Dean, and the other one, which I only just saw, was Chris Wood from Burnley to Newcastle, which I've got to say that is not one that I saw coming before about 45 minutes ago when I first saw it. And I mean, with Callum Wilson out injured for at least the next month and a half, possibly longer, maybe 2.5 months, and he already doesn't have the greatest injury record, they're going to need probably another player to play up front. And if even if Wilson is back, even just to add as a little bit of extra competition, they could do a lot worse than Chris Wood, couldn't they?
He's a great player, and I think a big part of the deal would also it means that it significantly weakens Burnley, who's a relegation rival of theirs. So that's another part of the transfer is Newcastle are playing 4D chess with this move.
I think the other thing is that whilst 2 years ago I would have said, yeah, there's a good chance that this will happen, but with Burnley's new owners, I can't see why that they would go, yeah, all right, we'll sell him if a $10 million or pound bid comes in. Whereas now they might go, yeah, it's fine. We're happy to see Chris Wood leave when they've already got sort of 3 strikers queued up, ready to pull the trigger on over this transfer window. So it's going to be very interesting, and I'm sure Jesse will be watching this one very keenly to see how it develops, being a Kiwi too. So.
Yeah, we need Jesse's take on this if it eventuates for sure.
Yeah, he'll score a lot of goals in the championship, Chris Wood.
Ouch.
Well, I mean, is he going to be scoring them at Burnley or Newcastle in the championship?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter which club he's at.
Exactly. He's going to bang him in. And Tommie, before we move on or wrap up, I've got to correct the record. I said Kieran Trippier will be bombing up the left. Obviously, he's a right back. So, listeners, please just stay out of our mentions for that one.
Like I said, I was like, "Oh, where to start with this?" But appreciate the
don't get in our comments for that.
Wait, the pod's gonna get cancelled because you said that, Colby.
Yeah, I know.
Oh dear. All right, but like you say, Colby, that pretty much wraps things up for this week. It's been a little bit shorter than normal, with not a lot of football being played, but as we said, there's still been plenty to talk about though. So. Please sure to tune in next week. Until then, enjoy the football.